Hello everyone, welcome to episode 4. Today we're talking about women and Jiu-Jitsu and how difficult it is to train as a female in the sport and different tips and tricks from the female perspective. And then we're also going to have the male perspective of rolling with women. And I also would love for Tommy to touch on the coach's perspective for that, because I think it is important that coaches know how to properly train and teach and interact with women, because I do think it's different than their male students, and it's important to address that. So I wrote a ebook that's available on lvlperformance.com. It's a free ebook. All you have to do is put your email in, and it's an entire guide for women and smaller athletes, and it just teaches how to like the different mindset that goes into rolling in jiu-jitsu as a female or smaller athlete, and it goes into these different topics and the hard things that come with it. So I'm excited to get into it in this setting. I think that'll be good. Go ahead.
And so for both of us, I teach our fundamentals program, so we have a lot of ladies coming through. And so that's a priority for us, is to make sure that we can keep those ladies in our program, to make sure that they can feel comfortable and grow and progress just like our other students. I think sometimes martial arts is intimidating, especially for ladies, and it can be hard, especially if the training environment isn't right for that. So that's kind of been our goal recently, and that's where I'm coming from for my perspective on this.
Yeah, and I think it matters like why you're training. Like for women, I think all of these tips that I'm going to give all go back to like, what is your reason for training? Is it for a fun workout? Is it for self-defense? Is it for learning the sport as a whole? I think it all goes back to that. And this video, this podcast episode is really for women, whether you've never trained before and you're thinking about it. It's for women who have been training and they're curious on what to add. Maybe sometimes it's just nice, at least for me, to hear other women talk about maybe some of the struggles or some of the benefits, just to kind of feel validated in like how it's going for them. So
yeah, and I think also for guys, to make sure that we're facilitating the training for the ladies to be as comfortable and as efficient as possible for them. And from the coaching perspective, to make sure that we keep our female students, to make sure that our ladies feel safe in our gym.
Yeah. So a little bit of background. I am a purple belt. I've been training about 7 years. I've trained in like kids classes. I've trained in adult classes. I now run the women's program at our gym, and we've seen women come in. We've seen women leave for different reasons, and I want to address all of them. And I'm usually the smallest person in the room, and usually 1 out of 2 or the only female in the room to go to train. And unfortunately, that's pretty common. Like, if you've never trained before and you're thinking about training, it's pretty common for you to be like the only female in the class, or out of just a couple of females in the class. I will say all of this also depends, and we've talked about this before, all of this also depends on the gym that you're training at. I think it's important for, like, when you're looking into a gym to train at, you see that there's women at the gym. I think that's a huge green flag. I think that's so important to see multiple women in like just a regular class at the gym. So we're really lucky, because especially the past 6 months to a year, we've had so many women come in, and now I would say we have at least 2 or 3 women in every single class, advanced, fundamentals, every class that we have. Yeah, it's awesome.
Sure.
And that hasn't always been the case. And I think for most gyms, that's not the case. So I think we're super lucky for that.
Yeah, definitely. And again, like we said, this is a big priority for us. I think, like Mari said, when you see a gym that has a lot of ladies training, you can kind of automatically assume that the environment is going to be welcoming and take care of new students and those kind of things. So that's really our goal, and has been our goal for the last couple of months, is to make sure that we can get ladies into the program and they can feel safe and comfortable training with us.
Yeah.
Cool.
One thing that's great about jiu-jitsu is it's basically made for the smaller person to use leverage and different techniques against someone larger. But no matter what, Okay, so like me, I weigh about 115 pounds. I'm 5'1", 5'2". I actually don't remember.
And 3/4.
Sure. If another guy weighs the same and is the same height, they would still be stronger than me, right? It's just natural for a guy to be much stronger than a female. And what's great about jiu-jitsu is that it works against someone stronger, but there is a limit. There is a point where it may not. So like, especially if they know jiu-jitsu, that's the huge piece to it. So like, if I'm rolling with a brand new white belt guy who's close to my size that comes in, like he's going to be a lot stronger than me, but I feel pretty confident that I could like control that without getting hurt comfortably. Mm-hmm. Now, if they've trained for a few months, if they've trained for a few years, it's different. Like it immediately changes. So if I'm rolling with someone closer to my size who's a purple belt and a guy so stronger and has like the right reactions and technique, I'm not going to win that. It's just not going to happen unless my technique gets better. So there is a limit, and we're going to talk about how to approach different roles, how guys should approach those roles. I think you should also touch on the fact that I think for a lot of guys, it's awkward to roll with females. And I think that is just natural, but unfortunate because, like I said, there's very few women in the gym in a class at a time. If we had a rule that we could only roll with other women, I would never get a chance to train. Like I have to roll with guys, and we're lucky at our gym. Like most guys know how to roll with women, and I feel very comfortable rolling with anybody at our gym. But I don't think that's always the case. So talk about like why it's uncomfortable for guys.
Yeah. Well, and I think also like to the benefit of the guys in the room, a lot of the ladies have some of the best technique. And so if you want to pick up those techniques and you want to like steal some of the best stuff and you're avoiding those rounds because it's uncomfortable or you don't know how to roll with them or something like that, you yourself are also missing out on some really fantastic training sessions. Mari's one of my favorite training partners because we have such technical rounds. I don't get presented those kind of technical problems as much with other people, right? And so I think that's a big deal. And I think for guys, they just don't know like what's going to make like some of the ladies feel uncomfortable in the room.
It's true.
And I think it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. You just have to make sure that if you were in their position, how would you feel? Right?
Yeah.
They want empathy, right? That's all it really is, I think. So realize that the ladies are there for a purpose, which is to train. So your job is to find the right balance of going hard enough to facilitate a good round, to make sure it's competitive, but not so hard where you're discouraging them or they're getting injured. This is super important. Do we want to talk about the different ways to go about that yet, or should we wait for that?
Yeah, let's wait a little bit. I want to pre-frame a little bit more. So for women, the most important thing that I think I've learned over the years is to not get frustrated when I can't win a round, because I have trouble comparing myself against other people that I'm rolling with, but I'm usually rolling with a man twice my age and either a higher belt than me or the same belt as me, and I'm like frustrated that I can't win.
Yeah,
and it's like that's the wrong person to be comparing myself to. Why would I compare myself to like this grown man who weighs like 70 pounds more than me and way stronger than me? Like, why would I compare myself against that person? I think there's a little bit of helplessness and insecurity that comes with rolling with guys and then comparing yourself to them, because you're not really gonna get anywhere with that. You're not learning by comparing yourself against somebody who just has the natural ability to beat you already. Plus now they have the technique that you have. It's not going to happen. So it's important to not, like, I used to really compare myself like, oh, I shouldn't be a purple belt because I can't beat this other person. It's not worth your time.
And I think something to mention on that is like, it's not that a smaller person couldn't beat somebody that's a lot bigger than them, but with the increase in size and strength, you need to have a disproportionate increase in technique.
Right.
So for every 20, 30, 40 pounds somebody's heavier than you, you need to have like an extra year or two of an experience.
Yeah, 100%.
So at some point, the discrepancy becomes enough where you don't have that technique jump on them, if that makes sense. I do believe that a female could beat a way bigger guy.
Yeah, for sure.
If their technique is incredibly precise, super sharp, and way more advanced than that guy, right? But it's a disproportionate increase. And so that's where that comparing isn't going to be helpful.
Yeah, I think I'm coming off a little cynical because I think I'm making it sound like women just can't beat any of the guys that they're rolling with. I don't mean to sound like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's delusional to not mention the fact that there is a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things one of the most important like mindset shifts to make as a smaller grappler, as a female, is that not every round is worth doing, and not every partner is a great match for you, and that is completely okay. It is always okay to say no to a round, and it's not always worth it to do a round. So I'll talk about from like the female perspective what that looks like. And then for you, I would love for you to talk about like for a guy, like what is a productive round? How do I make it a productive round? So a productive round is being able to apply specific techniques of my game against the person I'm rolling with. It means having a partner that is aware of the pace, the pressure, and the purpose of the round overall. And then there's mutual respect, win or lose throughout the round. So the way I do this is, okay, so I'll ask somebody to roll that I have watched roll a few times, maybe with other women or just in general. And I'm like, okay, like they seem like they're not going to be too rough. So I roll with them. And the whole round, especially my first round ever rolling with somebody, the whole round is me kind of like seeing how intense or rough they may get throughout the round. And that's just for like my personal safety. I feel like this is something guys don't have to worry about as much when they go to just grab somebody to roll.
Yeah.
But my priority is my safety. And if somebody wants to turn it up with me and they're bigger than me, then they could hurt me. They could be throwing their weight on me and moving around like in a like sporadic way and like land on me weird. They could like do submissions fast. There's different things that could happen like for my safety that I have to be aware of. So throughout the first round with somebody, it's really more of like a flow round. And if they turn it up, then I'll turn it up. And if I turn it up and then they get like, you can feel their energy that they're like upset with that, then I know that maybe that's not the safest person to be rolling with. And then after that round, you know, it's up to me to decide whether I want to continue rolling with that person and keep them as a training partner or not, and just not ask them again. So in general, I avoid brand new white belt men. That is truly just for my safety, because most white belt men start off very spazzy, and that's just a dangerous start to me. If I've seen them roll a few times and they look very calm and collected, then I'll roll with them, no problem. And I do that with people at our gym. Mm-hmm. But if I haven't seen that, or I haven't had the opportunity to really like kind of scope them out a little bit, just for my safety, I avoid that roll until they become a blue belt, when usually they have much more control and it's less of an ego-driven round. Once again, not to the white belt's fault at all, not to the new student's fault at all. This is 100% just a natural thing that happens when you first start training. You're very spazzy and you're all over the place, and I just want to be safe and keep myself safe by not rolling with you at first, without watching you roll with other people, and without like having a nice flow round. And then if I do end up grabbing somebody I haven't really been able to scope out much, but I decide to roll with them, I roll with them in front of my coach or in front of Tommy to kind of watch that round. So now for the guy's perspective of that and the coach's perspective.
Yeah. I want to talk coach's perspective a little bit first, and then guy's perspective, because I think it pre-frames it well. So from the coaching perspective, I think it's really important that you share some of these things that Mari already talked about with your new ladies that are coming in. So to me, the most important thing being the communication. Like, you should be able to say no to whatever round you want. I should be able to say, hey, no, thank you. That's all I have to say. And the culture has to be set in a way where the ladies know they can say that. And everybody else in the gym knows that if somebody says, hey, no thanks, it's not a personal thing. And the only response you're allowed to have is no worries. And you move on. It's super important. So mention this every once in a while. I think sometimes some of the And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mari, but some of the ladies feel like pressured, like, oh, I have to roll with these people, right? I think that's the case sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah. And so it's your job as the coach to make sure that that expectation is set. Hey, you do not have to go with anybody. Because realize also you're teaching adults classes. So this is they can make whatever decision they want in the class. It's their training. It's not your training as a coach. Your job is to make sure they feel in control of what they're doing, especially because some of the ladies might be coming in with a background that like they could feel really uncomfortable rolling with guys at first. And you might not know that, and they might not want to share that. So it's really important that they feel empowered to say no or yes. Sometimes in my fundamentals classes, when ladies first join, I'll partner them with some of the other ladies in the class, and I'll even ask them like, hey, can I grab your collar and show you how to do this thing? Obviously, they know that they're going to be grabbed in a jiu-jitsu class, but it just gives them some control and some agency that they're in control of their training, if that makes sense. And for some people who may have had past trauma with these kind of things and are in there for a certain reason, maybe for self-defense, this is really important to do. So that's something that I focus on as a coach for some of our new ladies coming in. Another thing I like to do is show the class how to roll with ladies every once in a while. So I'll grab Mari or I'll grab one of our smaller female students and I'll kind of do a round with them. And that's super important. We're going to talk about what that looks like in a second from the guy's perspective. So yeah. And then go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, going back a little bit, when somebody asks you to roll and you're just not comfortable yet, I think it can be kind of awkward, and I don't think women know what to say. So some of my favorite, like, here's what to say. If somebody asks you to roll and you just don't want to, you're uncomfortable or whatever. Some of my favorite things to say are, I'm sitting out this round. I say, I'm focusing on specific partners today. And a simple, like, oh, no thanks is completely fine.
Yeah.
And then if they're upset about that, then that's their problem. Like, that should never happen in a gym. And I've never had anyone be upset with me for saying, I'm okay, thank you.
I totally agree. And those are especially useful if the culture at your gym isn't already set up in that way. It should be set up in a way where you can just literally say, no, and that should be it. And because it's really not a personal thing, right? When you say no to a guy who wants to roll with you, it's not because you dislike them
not at
or anything
all.
Like that.
It's just a safety thing.
It's a safety thing and it doesn't align with your goals at the time. So it's important for both parties to understand that. Also, I think from the coach's perspective, sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk to guys about, hey, like you need to slow down or you need to do whatever, because we feel like, oh, is this really my place to say whatever? But
do you feel guilty about that because of like insulting the guy, or do you feel guilty about that because you feel like you're insulting the female by saying go easy on her?
No, well, yeah. So I think both of those things are concerns for people. I think a lot of times we feel like, oh, the male student is going to be frustrated and upset with us or something like that. Or they're going to assume that that I don't trust them with our ladies or something like that. But especially when people are starting, you got to set the culture correctly. And it's really important that you correct them right away. And it doesn't have to be in a frustrating way. I think what's worse is when you let the problem fester for a long time, and then 6 months down the road, you're like, okay, now I have to have an intervention with this
when they're in the habit of doing
when they've already been doing it for months because I'm too uncomfortable to say anything. So as the coach, you have to be the one that says like, hey, no. So the way I like to say that is if someone's rolling too hard, I'll be like, hey, slow it down a little bit. Like, I want you to be a little more technical that next round. And they're usually like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And then you move on, right? And then, just like we do for all of our students, if they do something great, I say, hey, that was awesome. Like, I appreciate you rolling with her like that. That was really nice. And then they can start to build that understanding, because we can't just assume that they're going to know how to roll with the ladies correctly. That's a bad assumption on the coach's part.
Right. I want to put a little bit of a disclaimer in here, because I don't want it to sound like we're saying go easy on women.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Like, not at all. That's not what we're saying at all. But it is different. If a guy goes as hard as he does with his like guy friends at the gym as he does with me, I'm going to get hurt. Like, I don't get anything out of that round. So it's not going easier with women. It's just adjusting your natural abilities based off of what their natural abilities are. I do the same thing when I roll with my students. Am I going to go as hard as possible with like the 10-year-old? Like, no, I'm going to help them out. I'm going to match whatever their division is. I'm going to match whatever their abilities are. And that's the exact same thing that we're asking as females. It's not at all like, oh, I'm a female, you have to go easy on me. Because trust me, if there's any female that would be like mad about someone saying that, it would be me. Like that would. And I think when I first started training and someone said something like that, oh, hey, like go easy, while I was rolling with a guy, that would really offend me.
Of course, yeah.
Like that really bothered me. But I also was younger and I didn't realize that the safety piece is more important.
It was coming from a good place, but it's not the right language, I think.
Right.
So let's talk about now from the guy's perspective of how do you actually roll with the ladies. And this is just our perspective, what we found useful over the years and the conversations that we've had. But I think, like Mari said, the biggest thing is you want to match your attributes with theirs. So you want to match your speed, your strength with whoever you're going with. This honestly goes for basically all of your training partners. I just think for ladies, like, this is even more important. But if I'm going with Mari, all of the strength that I'm using should be the strength that she's giving me. So if I were to do an arm wrestling match with my female training partner, I should be right in the middle. Like, neither of us should be winning that round, if that makes sense. For me, a productive round with the ladies, it's a dance. It's an exchange of techniques. What I think I see a lot of, unfortunately, is guys just sitting in like side control for the whole round.
Like on top.
Yeah. Guys in a top position, holding side control the whole time, and they're just kind of waiting there. That's not a productive round for either person, because you have to realize, like, what are you trying to do with this round? Are you trying to just win? Right? Or are you trying to improve and get better? And I hope it's that one, right? And if you're trying to improve and get better, who are you going to be able to hold down in side control for 5 minutes in your division?
And I'll say, like,
nobody.
When Tommy and I are rolling, I don't feel like you're like letting me do anything. I truly feel like I'm rolling with somebody in my division who knows more than me, and that's great. I love rolling with you for that. And there's other guys at our gym who may not know technically as much as me, but they match me, so I'm beating them, which is nice. But I know logically, if they use all their strength and they roll with me like they roll in their divisions, it would be a different round. But I'm so grateful that they're willing to let themselves lose, because they know that technically they don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. So a lot of times you'll hear this, don't use strength, use technique. And I think this is a little misleading, and you have to be more nuanced with this, right? Because it's not that I'm not using strength. Again, I'm using as much strength as my partner, and then it becomes a technique battle. You need to be able to use your strength if you're, let's say, competing, or you're going with somebody bigger than you, maybe, right? Or a similar skill level or something. Then it makes, you have to use strength. Jiu-Jitsu requires strength, right? But I need to be able to match my partner. So if I'm rolling with Mari and she's playing guard and I'm trying to pass maybe, and she does a really good sweep, and my only defense to the sweep is to do something really dynamic that could hurt her, like throw myself on top of her or rip a grip break really hard, then she should get that sweep, because I don't have a technical solution to that.
Besides your strength.
Besides my strength. That's where you lose the position, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if I'm rolling with Mari or even one of our smaller female students, and let's say I get a collar grip, right? And they go to break my collar grip off. Could I maybe just hold on and bite down and keep the collar grip? Yeah, maybe. But what am I going to get out of that? Could I do that in my division? No, I couldn't. So in that moment, that grip is broken, if that makes sense. Because there's no way I could do that in my division. Their technique was correct. I didn't have a technical solution. Therefore, it broke. Now, this takes intentionality. You need to be paying close attention. This takes practice. This is not an easy thing to do. This is a skill to build. But again, it's going to be really rewarding in the fact that you get a bunch of technique from the ladies who are often some of the most technical practitioners in the room. And you get more rounds in with people. And it's not awkward if one of the ladies comes up to roll with you. You're like, oh, awesome, let's go. And it's just as productive as your other rounds.
Yeah, 100%. There's something I call in my short ebook, I call it the escape mindset. And basically, it just means, and I think this is accurate for both the female in the role and then also for the male. The escape mindset just means, okay, so like let's say I am going against somebody who is beating me and I'm on bottom side control, and let's say it was because they just used a lot of strength and it became a pretty unproductive round and I'm just bottom side control the whole round. It sucks. I hate it. But you have to have like the escape mindset. Great, I get to work on my escapes now. Yeah. Great, I get to work on bottom side control. And let's be honest, like if you're there for self-defense, you have to know what that feels like. So be a little grateful in the back of your mind that they are going hard with you, because you're like, well, this is what it's going to feel like. You know, if I get put in a bad situation, this is what it'll be like. So now I get to work on my escape. Now I get to work on staying calm under pressure. And I think that's really important. And then also for the guy's perspective, if your technique just does not match and she's better, and you end up on a bottom side control, bottom mount, you should also have the escape mindset. Great, I'm never put in this because I get to use my strength. Like, this is awesome. Like, I get to learn in this position. I think it's important for both people to be ready to have that escape mindset and be grateful for the fact that you're put into that unfortunate spot.
Yeah. And also on that note, we talked about this in our last podcast a little bit, so I'm not going to go on too long, but we talked about essentially if they're out techniquing you and they're beating you and you lose, quote unquote, then ask them how they did it. And this is how you can get even more out of the round, right? And that feels awesome for anybody to get asked, like, hey, how'd you do that?
But women don't get asked that a lot. Smaller grapplers don't get asked that a lot. It feels great when you ask that. And go ahead.
So ask, how did you do that? Right? What did you do to me? And then
awesome.
They can practice. They get to teach a little bit. You get to learn some stuff.
You get to learn from it. Yeah.
The best way to do it.
Awesome.
Can I mention one more thing on
of
the
course.
guy's perspective? So one more thing I think that's super important as guys in the training room, make sure you're getting feedback from your female training partners. Okay. So what I do often is I'll say something like, am I being a good training partner to you? Is there any way I could be a better training partner? Okay. And then they might say, oh yeah, you're doing great. Or I feel like you're too pressure heavy. And in my division, I see more speed. Maybe you could play more guard stuff, and maybe they can help you, give you some ideas of how you could be a better training partner. What you don't want to say is like, am I going too hard? I hear this all the time. Like, am I being too rough with you? Right? Because
why don't you want them saying that?
Because I feel like it puts the ladies in an awkward position where they have to say, like, yeah, you're being too rough with me, which is uncomfortable to say that because it feels like at least to me, it feels like a defeating thing, right?
Interesting.
And from a guy's perspective, I'm like putting you in a situation of like, oh, am I going too hard? Because like, you know,
I'm so strong.
I'm so strong. Like, am I going too hard with you? Like, because that's not really the question to ask. Because so like for me, there's a couple female training partners that I have, and I would say we go hard, right? Like you and me, we'll do hard rounds.
Yeah.
But she's not getting injured. I'm not dropping my body weight dynamically on her, right? My weight is mostly on the floor. If I do pass, I settle myself into a position. I'm not landing. I'm not doing explosive takedowns. I'm careful of knees and hips and all the stuff, right? So it's not that I'm not going hard. It's just that the round is tailored in a way that works for them.
Yeah.
So that's not really the question to ask. It's like, oh, am I going too hard? Am I too strong in this position? You know?
I get what you mean. I think for me, like I get asked that, and I appreciate that. And I'm pretty honest with them in that moment, but I think it is hard for women to like, after that round is over, to give somebody feedback. I think, and I was going to touch on this too, I don't think you have to wait for a guy to ask how that round was.
Oh, absolutely.
For you to say anything. I think if you just had a round and it was too much, then you can say, hey, that pressure was too much. Like, just a heads up, like other women aren't going to want to train with you if you keep doing that.
Yeah.
I think that's important for guys to know. And I also think if they're a nice person, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll totally work on that. And they want to change. They want to work on that. I've never had somebody be like, oh, screw you, you know? Never. They're always like, oh, thank you so much for letting me know. Like, I won't ever do that again. And it's good because now you then have more training partners if you say something. It's very uncomfortable. I struggle still doing it even now. Yeah. And I've been training for years with a bunch of different types of training partners, and I still struggle saying something, but it's very important because it makes the gym better. It makes that person better. You feel more comfortable saying, or like you feel more comfortable rolling with them in the future. And if they do ask how it went, it's really important for you to be honest and let them know.
Yeah. 100%. I totally agree. I guess my perspective is just you want to make it as easy as possible for them to give you that feedback, right? Because not all of the ladies feel comfortable giving that to you.
I totally agree.
From both perspectives, like as ladies, I think it's great you need to be assertive. You need to say, hey, no, that's too much, or I need you to change this or whatever. And then as guys, we have to be able to say, hey, is there anything I can do better?
And I will also say it is okay if you start rolling with somebody and it's just too much. It's too rough. You can stop them mid-round and say, I'm good. Thank you. Like, that's enough for the round. I appreciate it. If it's just too much, it's overwhelming. Like, I've cried in the middle of a round because it was too much, and it's very overwhelming and upsetting. And you can just tap in the middle of the round, sit up and say, that's enough for now. I appreciate the round. And then maybe after you say something when you feel more calm. But it's okay mid-round to be like, yeah, I'm done. I've done that before, and it's okay. And it should be okay with them. And also, in that moment, it's odd to stop a round in the middle of the round, So I think naturally they're going to be like, oh, like what happened? And they're
Yeah.
going to want to know. But it's okay to stop mid-round if it becomes too much. Like, don't force yourself through a round and cry through the whole round or whatever.
Yeah. And also, if it becomes too much or it's a repeated thing, this is something to tell your coach about.
Yeah.
Right? Your coach should have your best interest in mind. And so if you're running into a certain training partner and you're like, hey, every single time I roll with this person, they just can't figure this out, then ask your coach. They should be able to help you. And then, of course, like, if there's weird behavior or something from the guys in your gym, definitely ask your coach and tell your coach, hey, he said this to me, or he did this or whatever, or told me this before or after class or something. That's something you need to tell your coach. That's like 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So I think everybody should do this. I think this is useful for every training partner, for every student, even guys. You should like have someone in your mind, like a group or category for each of your training partners. So like these training partners I use for my self-defense days, and these training partners I use for my competition rounds, and these training partners I use for like labbing. And obviously there's a lot of overlap, I'm sure, and that's great. But I think for women, it's important to you have to be very selective about who you train with, because this person might be for a competition round. Like Tommy is great for my competition rounds and my lab days where I need to flow and work through a few things. Like that's awesome. And then there's some people that I roll with because I need to get like a hard round in, and other people I train with because they're going to present me with like some self-defense dilemmas that I have to work through and deal with. And it's also okay to start a round asking for that specific type of training. So I will go to Tommy and say, hey, can you help me like work through this position? Or, hey, can we do a self-defense round or a competition round? Especially competition rounds, I do think it's a little important to like pre-frame who you're rolling with. Like, hey, I want to go hard this round. So they're not like, oh, they're mad at me, because I think sometimes if you start around just like 100%, then it can seem like they're upset with you. So you may want to say like, hey, let's get a competition round in, but you have your different groups, and then you start the round by telling the person what you want from that round.
Yeah. Also, one more thing I want to mention, just like more practically from a coaching perspective, or if you have a lot of other female training partners maybe who are competing, what we encounter in competitions for smaller females is a lot of intricate guard work, a lot of double pulling, a lot of quick outside passing footwork, that kind of stuff. We see less heavy side controls, right? And those kind of positions. So what I like to do for some of my female training partners is to kind of give them more of a look of what their divisions will look like if they were to compete, because that's going to be more helpful for them, especially if that's their goal. So for some of our competitor ladies, when I roll with them, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is give them more of a look at what that division looks like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, that's tricky and takes time to kind of learn how to like emulate that. But I feel like it's helpful when my training partners do that. Like I have some training partners who will adjust their techniques to look more like my division. That's super helpful. Like some of our professors are really good at doing that, right? Well, they'll kind of calibrate the round so that it's a little bit more of what I'm going to find. And I find that training to be really helpful. So you can do the same thing for them.
Yeah, for sure. So overall, like, it's really important for us to reiterate the fact that like we're not saying go easy with women or that jiu-jitsu for women is harder, but it's a different experience, and there's less women in the sport, so less and less people talk about it. So it's not harder, and it's not necessarily like you should go easy with women. Like that's not what we're saying. It's important to know that it's just different and that you roll with them differently than you would with a guy. And I think it's important for women to feel like, oh, this isn't just me, like who feels this way. It's okay, like, to walk up and, like, stand up and cry after a round. So we've talked about this a lot. Like, for guys, I think in a round, if they're upset, it's usually anger, and they walk up and walk out, like, angry, and they want to go punch a wall. But for a girl, it's different. Like, our anger is crying a lot of the time. Our anger is, like, being super emotional.
Yeah.
And I think he does a great job as a coach. Like, if a female is emotional in his class, like, he knows that it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I have to like go take care of, like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Because that a lot of times makes us feel worse. He's like, oh, okay, like they're angry, just like a guy's angry. Like, I gotta step back. Like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And then you have a conversation maybe later.
Yeah.
So it's just different. And it's really important for us to make that clear. Yeah, I think it's important to remember to not compare yourself against these guys who are naturally stronger, and most of them are going to be bigger than you. It's important to know that you're probably going to be the only female in the class, to look for a gym that has more than one female in their gym. That's very important. It's important to redefine like what a good productive role is. Like if you're bottom side control, be grateful. You know what? Get to work on this now. Feel comfortable saying something. If you need to end the round mid-round, that's great. If you need to say something at the end of your round, that's also totally okay. If you need to say no to somebody because you're uncomfortable, that's totally okay. Talk to your coach if you need to. I didn't really want to touch in this episode on, if a guy is making you feel uncomfortable and crosses a line in that area, because I've fortunately never had to deal with that. But my initial instinct is talk to your professor, talk to your coach about it. Again, I've never had to deal with that, luckily, and I'm lucky for that. But I mean, if you guys have any ideas on what you would do in that moment, but for me, my instinct is just talk to the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because as an owner, they should have your best interests in mind. So if anything like that happens, it should be a very decisive, clear action to take if something like that were to come up. And I think also as male instructors, sometimes we don't think about what that experience is like for some of our ladies. And so I think it's really important, one, to have female coaches and instructors, I think is awesome. Or even just as a male coach, have these conversations with your female students or with your female instructors to figure out, hey, what is this experience like for you? What could be better about our gym? What am I not seeing that you are seeing during classes that we can improve on? Yeah,
I mean, I think it's great. Like as a female, what I would love from a coach, and you guys do most of this already, but like coming up, hey, how's that person rolling with you? Like, are they too rough? Are they good? Like, how's that going? Get my feedback, especially if it's like a higher belt who's building your culture. You should know how they're rolling with women.
Yeah.
That's very important. So like just asking, hey, like how does that person roll? How do you feel during class? Or asking, hey, like how do you think we could build the women's program? You know?
Yeah.
I think every gym should have a women's class. That's a different topic. But you can ask them like, how do you think we could build the women's program? Hey, like your marketing should be focused towards women as well. That's just a side note for business owners. Like you should point out the fact that you have women at your gym. I think that's huge. And I would love from a coach, like if I'm rolling with a guy, especially if they're newer, like for them to shift their focus and watch that roll and make sure that like the safety is there and everything's okay. I've had professors do that. Like they're coaching one round and then they see that I'm rolling with someone brand new that could hurt me. They like shift their focus and they're watching their round and making sure everything's okay. It's important to look for a professor who is watching the room, not like on their phone in the corner. They have to be like aware of everything going on. And then they can decide if that person needs a punishment roll. I'm joking.
Different topic. Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was interesting. If you are a lady and you train, comment below some things that we missed. Maybe anything else that you feel like is really important from the coaching perspective that you would love to have more of at your gym. We would love to hear about that. And also, next week, we are having... Should we talk about our...
We're having a very two special guests.
That's right.
On some of our favorite people in the world. And we cannot wait to talk to them. And you guys should be like...
hyped.
Yeah.
You should be hyped.
Yeah.
Can I say who it is or no?
No, secret.
Anyone who's watching this knows exactly who it is.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay. We're excited though.
Giveaway. Two other things. One, we're sorry about not posting New Year's Eve. We hope everyone had wonderful holidays.
Christmas.
It was Christmas Eve.
Yeah, not New Year's Eve.
Did I say New Year's?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Christmas Eve. Hope you guys had wonderful holidays and enjoyed your Christmas Eve. We decided not to post for other holiday things that we have going on. So we're here for this episode, and we hope you guys really enjoyed it. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was the fact that LVL Performance just got our first partnership
Let's go.
with Haley Westcomb. She's a fantastic athlete. She has been training only a few years, which is mind-blowing to me.
Ridiculous.
So I met Haley at a competition. She destroyed me, and I loved it. And we stayed in touch, which was awesome. She is a experienced IBJJF competitor. Love watching her compete. And she just embodies everything Level represents, and I'm so glad that she is a partner with us.
Yeah.
So thank you, Haley, and shout out to her. So follow her. I think it's Haley.Westcomb, and then LVL Performance. So
yes,
check that out.
She also coaches like we do.
Yeah, she
which
coaches
is
kids.
Huge, right?
Yep.
And speaking of like women in the sport who are doing big things, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, we're super hyped.
Awesome. We'd love to have her on too at some
That's
point.
right.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah,
we gotta fly her out. Yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful holiday season. We cannot wait for next week.
That's right. See you guys.